Thank you everybody for joining our session today on Azure Talk, and I really appreciate all of you taking time and joining our session. Azure Talk is, as you know, that we have been conducting sessions in past, and we have conducted more than, I think now it's more than 30 sessions on different topics on Azure. And for last couple of sessions, especially we have split our sessions in beginner session and advanced session. So in beginner session we are covering the beginners level Azure, and then we have advanced session where we are covering right now we are covering DevOps. So this is in continuation of the same session. This is our third session on DevOps. In past two sessions, we covered what is DevOps, and then we also covered on infrastructure as a code. So if you missed those sessions, please feel free to go to our website, and from there, you can look at those sessions. So you can go to AzureTalk cloudeasy.com and then /AzureTalk.html, and you will have all our past sessions there. So in case you missed it. Plus, if you're not already part of our Azure Talk group, Telegram group, please feel free to join the Azure Talk Telegram group, which is t.me/AzureTalk. And we also have Azure DevOps group, which is headed by Ashish. So you can also join our Azure DevOps group, which is Azure DevOps Pro. Finally, we have our Azure Talk YouTube channel. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you can look at our sessions, which we have already published. Today, I'm joined by Ashish and Deepak, who is going to help us with navigate through these sessions. So Ashish Raj, he is senior DevOps engineer. He works with Cyber Group Incorporation, and you can reach out to him. He runs his forum, so you can always post your questions related to Azure DevOps into those forums. Then we have Deepak Singh Dhami, who is Microsoft Valuable Professional and in PowerShell, and he is an excellent resource when it comes to DevOps and automation. He has extensive experience. In fact, he's working as infrastructure developer, which is an official position when it comes to talking about DevOps, and that's the designation probably you would relate with. So he has extensive experience on PowerShell and also scripting and also infrastructure as a code. I welcome these two, and I also welcome all of you as a part of this session. And with this, I will take the lead, and I'll introduce you to the agenda. But before that, just for housekeeping purpose, I have muted everybody. And in case you have any questions, please do feel free to type in the chat, and we will respond to those questions. In case you want to speak up and you want to ask any questions, you can let us know in the chat, and I can unmute yourself, and then you can go ahead and talk through your questions, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. As I said, this is our second session, this is our third session. So what are we going to do is today we'll spend more time doing hands-on. And because the last session when we did, we had a lot of questions, and we were doing the demo, and during that we had to really cut short because we couldn't complete on time. There were a lot of queries, and we wanted to answer those questions, but then because of lack of time, no, we couldn't do it. So I've inherited the same agenda that what we had in last session. So I will not go much deeper into these, specific agenda, as opposed to we will, we'll spend more time on, the demo section. However, having said that, I will still cover a little bit on high level, overview section, so that we can get the feel. And if you really want to, know much more about it, please go and check out our past session, or maybe sessions prior to this session. That will give you a detailed overview of all these technologies. So in last session, what we covered what is infrastructure as a code, the definition of infrastructure as a code, and how do we really define our infrastructure in terms of templates and repository, and the repository where we install the template. We talked about the infrastructure as a code tool tool ecosystem. So like, what are the different tools that you have available which you can use to basically produce these artifacts, and how do you store it, how do you build these codes, or how do you code it, and which tool would you use. So all those we discuss about that. Then we also talked about Azure Resource Manager, ARM. ARM is the, all of us know that Microsoft had two kind of portal, ASM portal and ARM portal. ASM portal is classic or version 1 portal, and ARM is the new portal. And ARM is very tightly integrated with infrastructure as a code, because we also call it, when we refer infrastructure as a code in terms of Azure, we call it ARM templates. Because it's Azure Resource Manager template. Eventually, these templates get deployed in ARM portal, and using ARM APIs that we use, which is REST-based APIs to interact with Azure resources within in Azure. Then we talked about the Azure, ARM template and structure, which we'll spend a little bit time today, and that's where Deepak and Ashish's expertise will come in, and he will try to explain. And then from there on, we will dive into the demo section where we'll spend more time today. We wanted to keep it more interactive. We want to keep it more hands-on. We want to, keep it so any question that you have, you can keep posting those questions or asking those questions in the chat, and we will also, have open forum questions where you can ask these questions, any questions that you have around infrastructure as a code or around ARM templates. So our objective today is to spend more time doing things as opposed to talking about things. We talked about the things in past sessions, but today we'll spend more time, talking about the actual implementation and doing the things hands-on. So then, obviously in the demo section, what we are going to cover is we'll talk about the ARM template deployment, where we'll take a couple of ARM templates, and we will walk through the entire process of deployment process, starting from the coding into, deploying into Azure portal, and then looking at, how the complete process goes through the cycle. We will also, look into some of the repository which Microsoft has, like, Azure galleries or quick templates which are available, which is like, readily available. So Ashish and Deepak will walk you through those repositories, which has, templates which are already there. You don't have to write your own template. Basically, you can use, reuse, and in fact, you can also modify it to suit your own need. So we'll go through those also, which is Azure galleries or Azure quick template galleries, which will be part of the demo. And then obviously we'll have loads of questions and answers. Any questions you have, you can post that questions, and we will be happy to take those questions. With that, I will quickly give you a refresher, and maybe Ashish can also lead that refresher. So in today's session, we'll spend more time on ARM template and how to deploy those ARM templates. So basically, the ARM template, which I talked about you earlier, Azure Resource Manager. When it comes to infrastructure as a code in Azure, we call it ARM template, which is Azure Resource Manager template. In AWS, we call it CloudFormation. So every cloud provider has different terminologies for infrastructure as a code, but eventually its underlying principle is the same, that you are defining your infrastructure as a declarative template. So basically you're declaring those rather than defining those. So you're just declaring it and let the system take care of that declaration. So system will take that declaration and translate that into the actual implementation on the portal or onto the ground. Now, that's just in a nutshell what is ARM template. So now I will hand it over to Ashish to quickly give a brief about ARM template and the structure and schematic, and then from there on, we can get into the demo section. So Ashish.
Okay, thanks Neeraj for the quick start. So let's, we as Neeraj has already explained that we are actually continuing our last session, and most of the things we are going to do is the practical practical aspect of the session, that is infrastructure as code. We will be going through the basics of Azure ARM template, Azure Resource Manager template structure. We will go ahead do a simple deployment using ARM template. We will try to go through some of the quick start things, like what are the basic things you can from where you can start using ARM template if you are not using right now, or there are few quick tips, I would say, which can help you to have a learning on this. Regarding the ARM template. So let's start the journey of ARM template deployment as well as the structure. So as we have already covered infrastructure as code concept, and as Neeraj had explained that there are different tools or different way of implementing it for different cloud provider. For AWS it's CloudFormation. For Azure they call it Azure ARM template, and then there is a cross-platform solution from HashiCorp, which is Terraform, and Deepak is probably in future we are going to have a session on that as well. And Deepak is someone who is using it extensively in the infrastructure. Terraform is quite popular because it is cross-platform, so you can use Terraform for Azure as well as for AWS, and there are number of cloud providers supported by Terraform. So that's the kind of brief, quick brief about what we have covered so far. And now I will continue my session from here. So we have already discussed the structure of ARM template in last session, but just to ensure that we are when I'm going to discuss the demo, we are in sync with the fundamental concept. I will actually repeat the same thing in this session as well. So ARM template is nothing but a JSON file, that is JavaScript object notation file, which is a very easy to use, easy to use or easy to understand, readable format, which is kind of, as it is, you can see that it is kind of XML. You can easily navigate through it. You can easily figure it out, what are the things are there and how things are related to each other. And in a JSON file of ARM template, this specific to ARM, you will find these 6 things in general. The first thing, which is schema. So schema will have a URL, which is kind of a URL for API of JSON, REST API. So what exactly ARM template does is, whatever the things you write in ARM template, and when you deploy it, it hits a API. And that API is responsible for reading all the information from your template and telling the Azure Resource Manager what are the things you want to deploy or you want to do with the Azure Resource Manager, and depending upon that translation, your resources will be deployed. So that's
yeah. So Ashish, so if I understand it correct, so schema defines, or it helps to translate the declarative template in JSON into the actual commands which needed to be, or actual APIs which needed to be executed to provision.
Yes, it helps. Yeah, it helps Azure Resource Manager to understand what exactly you are trying to do. And Azure Resource Manager has different schema versions. So one of the schema version you would be hitting, actually you will be writing code compliant with one of the schema version, and you have to tell which schema version you have referred, and that you will be referring through this. So this is one of the things you probably would not change a lot. Most of the time this will be same, and you don't have to worry about a lot about this. And I mean, when we will be going through the practical aspect, I mean, how to get started to develop your own ARM template, I will tell you, I mean, I will try to explain you how it does not actually, how you can get these things automatically. I mean, instead of, too much thinking about it. You don't have to actually go through this URL and try to find something or anything. I mean, once you have this URL, you will be using it most of the time with all the template, until unless you are not actually communicating with one of the resource which is most updated one, and maybe the API or schema for that particular thing is something else what you are already using. So as you can see,
schema is one of the portion of the 6 topics, right? So they have schema, then you have content version.
Yeah. So content version is something, it is for you. So from ARM, because what we are talking about is infrastructure as code. So since it is a code, so it must have a version. So content version is something you will be defining depending upon your, it's just a way of versioning your code. So suppose you have you are just starting with it, so you might version it as 0.1, and then once you have deployed it, you might version it 1.0. So incrementally you will be updating this particular thing, and that is, this is completely for your uses. If you will leave it blank, that is also fine, but we actually give you, we actually advise you to use versioning whenever you update the code, and when you deploy it successfully, just reflect that particular thing in your versioning as well. It will be easy to redirect people who are kind of responsible for managing this code in future. So content version is something it is completely for your versioning practice. Then you have parameters. So parameters, variable, and resources. These are the three things you should, you will be interacting a lot. These are the three things you will be updating, and you will be playing around it a lot. So these things should be clear in your mind. It should be. So I will tell you what exactly each one means, but these three things I just want to tell you that schema and content version is something completely same, or there will be very minor changes whenever you will do, but in parameter, variable, and resources, these are the three things you will change depending upon your requirement. So what parameter is? So parameter is, as the name suggests, so when you code anything, so if you are coming from a developer background, or maybe you are from an infrastructure background, but if you have done little bit of scripting, then the first script you write, you might hard code everything. But when you actually make use of best practices, or when you take care of quality assurance and reusability in your mind, then probably you will try to give something which user can change dynamically. So that's what parameter means. So the things which you want user to input on each deployment while he is using your ARM template, this is parameter. All those things will go into parameter. So if I talk about, if I go through Azure infrastructure, so suppose you are writing a template for deploying a virtual machine. So in a virtual machine, probably you will, the virtual machine name, you might need, every time you might need a different name. So that name, you will be declaring it in parameter. How will you declare? We will go through it in detail, but the concept is whatever the things which are going to be changed on each deployment, those things comes into the parameter. And how, what is the syntax and how you do it, we will go through it in a subsequent slides. So for the time being, I'm just covering the use of everything. So far we have covered first three, that is schema, content version, and then parameter. Now the other name which comes as variable. So variable is also reusable, as we said for parameter, but variable, you will be putting things in variable when you are using it within template only. So suppose if I say that VM nickname, or maybe subnet ID, or something which I do not want user to input, but actually I may need it to use in different places, so I will put all, that particular information as a variable within my template. So I mean, if I compare parameter and variable, so I will say parameter is something when you need this information to be input by user. Okay, it is reusable information, but it should be inputted by the user. I mean, it should change on each deployment, but it will be provided by user.
So
And then
Ashish,
yeah.
so if I understand it correct, even parameters will also get stored eventually in a variable.
Parameter you can store in a variable if suppose you want to use you want to construct a variable with the suppose suppose you want to construct a particular variable, particular thing with the use of a parameter. Suppose you may want to create a disk name. So disk name something you don't want to user to input, but then you want to create it so that you can reuse it within your template. So disk name, but then you want to have virtual machine name somewhere in your disk name. So you will use that parameter from the parameter, the virtual machine name, and then you will construct a variable. We have this example in our demo. So we will go through how you can actually use a parameter to construct a variable.
That's awesome.
But the basic understanding here I want to clear is these two things, variable and parameter, sounds like same, but they have different objective. Correct. So I hope it is clear now. I mean, if anyone has any question, then we will, I mean, in these two things, we will probably cover it in question and answer, section. And then we have resources. So resources is, as you can see, it is parameter and variable are, closed by curve braces, but resources are, closed by square bracket. So a square bracket means array. So resources here and what exactly it will contain? It will contain, if you are familiar with Azure, then everything in Azure is a resource. Whatever you deploy in Azure, be it VNet, be it compute resource, that is virtual machine, or maybe an extension, or whatever you actually deploy into your Azure, you actually deploy a resource. So whatever things you need to deploy using this particular template, those things will be enclosed in this square bracket. So it is kind of array of resources, and you will enclose it in the resources section. And then we have output. So output is something, again, just like content version and schema. Output might change, might not change. Output is kind of optional information you may want from the deployment as an output. So we will go through the how to use it, but in nutshell, what exactly it means that if you suppose you run a query against a SQL server. So if you run a non-executable query, and if the insert is successful, it might
so it's kind of a feedback mechanism that I ran a query, and whether it was successful or not. So those return codes could be part of output.
Right. Suppose, I mean, we can say that we have deployed a virtual machine, and then we have given a DNS suffix to that virtual machine. Then I might need that DNS suffix to be output as a output, so that I can confirm the VM has been deployed with that particular DNS suffix, or maybe the IP address, or maybe, I mean, whatever the information you may want to verify that particular deployment. So it's kind of verification mechanism, and it's completely optional. You might not need it in initial time of using ARM template, but progressively, as and when your scenario gets complex, you might use this particular option provided by ARM template.
All right, good.
Ashish, just to add, we have been looking at using outputs to sort of get some of the DNS host names, etc., and probably run some pester tests and validate that, okay, the ARM template actually deployed everything what was supposed to. So it can be something which you can sort of extend upon, get the outputs, then use it somewhere else.
Right.
So Deepak said, let's say I provision a resource, for example, a VM I provision, right? So I need the VM's DNS host name. So that probably could be captured as an output, right? Or any other details of the final product that has been deployed, and I need those information. Probably that could be captured as a part of output.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of.
I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah, I'm also. So is it Ashish?
Is it fine now?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, again,
so again?
Yeah.
Is it fine now?
Yeah.
So if no, I'm still getting it.
I just muted myself.
All right. So Ruksar has a question. So let me unmute him, and then Ruksar, you can go ahead and. Oops. Sorry, I removed him by mistake.
Okay. Is it fine now?
Yeah, it's okay. We'll continue. And Ruksar, by mistake, I removed you, so you may want to come back and then unmute yourself and talk your question.
He might. Okay. Okay. So yeah, as Deepak said that, I mean, he is using output for kind of infrastructure test or kind of feedback mechanism, and that's what it can be used for. And I mean, but initially I would say, if you are a beginner, then probably I would not recommend you using output for the time being. You can use it for simple output, like like we said, that IP address or maybe DNS suffix. But when your scenario becomes complex, when you are familiar with the JSON template, when you are familiar with the structure of JSON template, when you are getting things in the ARM template, then you can start using it for the you can move this into the next phase where you are actually verifying it. And then we have ARM template can be deployed using, as in it follows. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Ruksar has joined again. Neeraj?
Yeah. So let me unmute himself. So where do I say Ruksar? Yeah. Okay. So I unmuted you. Go ahead with the question.
Thank you, Neeraj, and thank you, Ashish and Deepak, for a wonderful session. So My question is regarding parameters. Because we have the ARM template for logic app, and we have some workflow, and we have developed in such a way if workflow is successful, it will not send email. If workflow is failed, it will send email to the support team. So we have the different environment, for example, dev, QC, and UAT and production also. So in some cases, because all the email is coming to my email box, all the failed email is coming to my email box. So I'm confused from which environment is coming actually. So what I had done, I had just defined one property in the ARM template, say environment name, and I mentioned it is a dev or QC, and I try to use that parameter in email body and deploy the template. So my understanding is that if some variable is some parameter is required, so I can define and I can use my email body. And so I come to know, okay, from which environment is email is coming actually, failed, in which environment the workflow is failed. But that when I deploy, the parameter's value is not replaced with the actual value. So I think some misunderstanding here. So can you just clarify the, so we can use parameter within some action contained body or some action body. So parameter, how the internally, how the behind the screen, all these parameters and variable get used when we deploy the ARM template.
So your question is you want to use the variable outside of ARM template. So you have a PowerShell script which deploys an ARM template, and then based on the success or failure, you want to use the environment information which is in a parameter inside the ARM template, which is captured by the user. You want to use that in your email body, which is again generated by PowerShell script. Am I right?
No, I have logic app.
Okay, logic.
If logic, because logic again is a ARM template. If logic app is failed, so we have written a logic in the logic app. Okay, send email to me.
Okay.
For example, supporting. So because we have a different environments.
So how are you constructing your email body within the logic?
So I have defined one parameter in the ARM template, and from that parameter I'm just trying to get a value actually. When we so my understanding that when the ARM template is deployed, at that time parameter value will replace with the actual value, but it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So, did you get my question?
Yeah, I understand. Maybe probably we can talk to you. Maybe we can post a question in our forum, and we can look into your.
Yeah, I need to understand this particular scenario more.
No, for example, it's simple, it's straightforward. If some value from the parameter I want to use in the email body, can I use or not? If I use, it will not replace the actual value. It just replace the parameter name. It is not replacing the actual value actually.
Okay.
So we
have
the parameter definition. Yeah, we have the parameter definition, and we have the parameter files separately. In the parameter file, we have the parameter value. So ideally, when we deploy the ARM template, the parameter value should be replaced in the email body. My understanding was that actually initially, but it's
yeah. So maybe Ruksar, we can look into your specific problem and we can try to answer those. So right now probably we may not have the exact answer, but we'll surely answer your question in the our DevOps talk with the group that we have. She'll surely address your question. Thank you for asking your question. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Ruksar, just post it there. I will try to find what exactly the scenario it is. Okay. Okay, so ARM template can be deployed using Azure in a number of ways. So then the first thing is Azure PowerShell, and that is the most probable solution. I mean, the most probable way you will be using it for the first time and your initial days. Then you can use Azure Portal as well. Azure Portal is something, it gives you an option but I would not recommend you using Azure portal for the time being, but instead of that, use Azure PowerShell to deploy. Azure portal way of deploying ARM template has a different, I would say, benefit. We will go through that benefit when we will explore that option. You have Azure CLI. So another option you have is Azure CLI. So Azure CLI was the cross-platform command line interface by Microsoft, but since the launch of their Cloud Shell, and it is now general available, I guess. So Cloud Shell is kind of, I would say, can replace your Azure CLI. Cloud Shell is a shell within browser. So that is another option you have. Then you have REST API. So REST API is something even PowerShell, Portal, or CLI. All these three things are actually behind the scene using REST API itself. So if you want to know how REST API how REST API is used in Azure Resource Manager, I would recommend you to go through our past session. There we have discussed it, how there are resource provider and all those things. And then you have Visual Studio Team Services as well. So using Visual Studio Team Services, you can have very much CI/CD pipeline where you can deploy your Azure resources using code, because here we are all talking about infrastructure as code. So that option is also there, and that is also actually kind of hitting the REST API, and behind the scene everywhere, wherever, all the options actually behind the scene, it is REST API which is doing all the magic over there. And these are the things. Azure PowerShell is something we are going to explore, and I will try to actually give a brief information how you can get started using Azure PowerShell. Right. So as Deepak has pinged in the chat that a PowerShell core is GA now, which is kind of CLI replacement, I would say, and it is very, very much actually advertised by Microsoft now. So you can use Azure PowerShell core as well. Okay, can we move to the next slide?
Sure. Yes, I think the next thing is probably you want to get into the demo section.
Yes.
I'm still getting an echo feedback, so maybe.
Let me mute myself. Now is it fine?
Yeah. No, again I'm getting it, but anyway. It's okay. So we'll continue from here. So now what we want to do next is, we will get into the hands-on demo section where Ashish have muted yourself. So now it's clear. I don't get many feedback. Next section, what we are going to do is, last time we tried to deploy the ARM template, and this is the architecture that probably we took and we try to deploy it in Azure. So the ARM template that probably is a part you will be used as a part of this demo will constitute of, we'll create a VNet, then within that VNet we'll create two subnets, that is front end and the back end with the IPs can change, that's fine. And then we'll also create a VM inside that which will have a NIC card associated with that, and that NIC card will have public IP and private IP, and plus that VM will have a managed desk. So that's what in nutshell the architecture is going to look like when we deploy the VM using ARM template. And then also we'll go further in details, as I said, about resource manager, gallery template, and the quick deployment template, and also. So this is what we will discuss in the deployment section. So Ashish, before we get into demo, any questions? So I can unmute the participant, or you can unmute yourself and ask any questions before we get into the demo section.
Yes, sure. So far we have discussed the basic structure of ARM template. So if here any of you have any question, you can go ahead and ask, and then we can go ahead and actually explore the actual template and how you can get started. I will wait for another next 1 or 2 minutes if anyone
Yeah,
has
while
any
we are
question.
waiting for question, why don't you go ahead and share your screen so that we will have the demo at least kickstarted.
Sure.
Neeraj, this is Ranjit. I have a question here. So my question is, when we are deploying through the AMP template using the JSON, the VMs which we are deploying, how the disk is going to get created? Are you going to use this VM names for the disk, or is it something like a random name is going to generate?
So you can define both. You have both the options. You can take the input from the user, so that's where the parameter will capture that. Or you can also have random generation where you have to write an algorithm that also is possible. But if typically you will capture the input from the user using parameter in JSON template. So in the parameter section, you can have default value for your VM, or you can have input from users. If user inputs, that the default value will be overridden. If user does not input, then the default value will be taken. That's for the
Okay.
Hi, Neeraj, this is Umapati. See, I have one question. So, can we do from ARM template to resize like the standard to premium, like A1 to DS1 or something?
So you're trying to convert the VM from existing SKU to another SKU. Is that you're saying?
Yeah. Like sizing, I'm asking about sizing. Like for example, existing is A1 standard.
Yes.
I want to convert to premium. Is it possible to do?
Oh, you want to resize. Basically, you want to resize.
Yeah, resize.
So maybe this question, I don't know. We can do through the PowerShell, but I'm not sure if we can use it JSON. Deepak or?
Yes, I think yes. For web app it works. So I guess for VM as well. What it will do, it will redeploy.
It was not question about the web app. It was question about the VM. So VM we have A1 size, and we want to resize it to D1, V2. And if that's conversion is supported, so it's basically is asking, can we resize using JSON?
Okay, so can we resize it using portal?
Yes.
Yes. Then yes, using JSON it will work.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever the things portal gives you using graphical user interface, it will definitely work with JSON template. And in addition to that, there are a few things which will work with JSON. There is some echo, I think.
Yeah, so let me mute all the audience, and then then you can unmute yourself. So Ashish, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Okay, I have, okay, let's start it. So the first thing I would request everyone that probably everyone should have it. And probably as Deepak has pointed that PowerShell core is now, GA, general available. So that is the one thing you can install. If not that, but at least you should have PowerShell in your system. So if you do not have PowerShell, or probably if you are using updated Microsoft system, you should have PowerShell. So you should get familiarize yourself with PowerShell, because this is something you are going to use a lot in coming days if you are not using it now. So PowerShell IaC, and if you are familiar with PowerShell, PowerShell has two components: PowerShell shell, PowerShell shell, and PowerShell IaC. So PowerShell shell is is something kind of command prompt you can use, and then we have a IaC. So these two things, the first thing you should have on your system, these two things. If you do not have these two things bookmarked on your system, in your taskbar, go ahead and do this. This is something you will be using a lot whenever you are doing any scripting or something. Then the second tool I will request everyone to install is Visual Studio Code. This is a free open source software from Microsoft, which is kind of which gives you a lightweight studio kind of thing that you have Visual Studio, but here you don't have to care about any licensing stuff. It's open source from Microsoft, and Microsoft kind of adding features to this particular application every day. So I would say have this particular application in your system if you have not installed it yet, because this is the application we are going to use a lot. Once you have this Visual Studio Code in your app, on your laptop or desktop, you need to have some customization in this particular code so that you will familiarize yourself with ARM template quite easily. So what are the things I would request you to go ahead? There is one thing which is Git extension. So you should have this Git extension installed. I guess updated Visual Studio comes with this particular thing, but if in case it is not, then go ahead and install Git extension. In addition to this Git extension, you might have to install Git for Windows or Git for Mac, depending upon your operating system. Also install. So Git download, you just have to Google search Git download, and you can download this particular thing. So these are the kind of environment, or I would say a thing which you will need in somewhere when you will do development, and when you will be kind of doing the same stuff we are doing or we will be doing in our future session. So the first thing, Visual PowerShell. The second thing, Visual Studio Code. The third thing, okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. My Skype was showing connecting. That's why I thought I got disconnected. Okay. The third thing is Git. Then once you have Git installed on your computer, then the other thing you have to install in your Visual Studio Code is you go ahead and select this particular square, that is extension, and then you can see a couple of extension I have already installed. One is Azure Account, one is Azure ARM Template Helper, and one is Azure Resource Manager Snippets. So these three things you will definitely need somewhere, and I will tell you how I am using these things in my development practice, but it's just for your quick start, that these are the helper things you would definitely need so that you can familiarize yourself with the ARM template. Once you have all these three things, there are a couple of other extensions as well. Like you can see, I've installed a couple of other extensions in my system. That that completely depends upon your level of coding ARM template or other tools, but these two things you will definitely need in this startup. So once you have these two things, okay, then probably you need to bookmark a particular website, which is Azure QuickStart. If you will Google it, Azure QuickStart, you will have it. This is a very nice resource from Microsoft itself, which is Azure QuickStart they call, and there are lots of template already created for you for most of the popular stack they have. I hope, okay. So these are the QuickStart template you can have, and if you have a GitHub account like mine, if you have a GitHub account, you can go ahead and clone it with your GitHub, so on your computer, or fork it with your with your account. So once you have this on your computer, once you have cloned it, just like I have cloned already the QuickStart. Right now it is not on my this system, but I have cloned this particular thing. Then you have lots of if you will search, if suppose you are starting with VM, so if you will search VM, there are lots of VMs template already created. You don't have to create from the scratch. Why I'm not asking you, or why I'm not encouraging you to create from scratch? Because if you are not coming from the development background, then it will be a little bit of slow transition to this particular practice. So that is why if you are from a development background, or if you are comfortable enough to start with scratch, then definitely you can go ahead. But it is always a good thing to have something and then go ahead and customize that particular thing. So you have a VM for user image, VM, different Linux VM and other. I mean, there are lots of basic as well as complex scenario over here. Simple RHL, simple Windows. So let's go ahead and click on simple Windows. And we have something, a parameter file, a JSON file, a README file, a metadata JSON file. So we will go through each one of them in QuickStart, and then we will go to our template, which we have shown you the diagram here. We will then we will go through this particular template where we are deploying all these resources. So right now we are going to I'm just trying to explain you how to navigate QuickStart template, and then you can have it on your system, and then you can once you have familiarized yourself with the syntax, you can customize that particular thing as per your need, or maybe you can get inspiration from there and you can start building your own template as well. So the first thing is the JSON template, which is the actual template you have. This is the template which will contain the resources. So if we go to this particular code, this is the actual template which will be going to be deployed, and I will show you in my code editor how easy it is to navigate. So if I go to this and open it in Visual Studio Code, then it's opening. This one, okay, and if I open my template, this is my template, you see a similar code over here, but it is really very difficult to navigate, is it not? That schema and content version in the top is there, but then you have parameter, and then it is just going on, and you will find it difficult to go to the next step that we have discussed in our slide, that the next thing you should be seeing is this variable. So it is very difficult to navigate to the next section where is the variable. So for this particular thing, we have the extension that I told you, this Azure ARM helper. This will help you to navigate through the template. So let's go ahead and see how we can use that thing. So I can click on, you click on view, then command palette. Once you click on command palette, you have this particular thing. And the very first thing I have used recently, start outliner. And if I click on start outliner, and if I go to my, here I have a ARM template outline section, if you see that. So what it is doing is, the opened JSON file, it is trying to outline that file, and you can see that there are section schema, and the moment I click on schema, it will go to schema. The moment I click on content version, it will go to the content version, and the moment I will click on parameter, it will select all the parameters. And then you have nested things over there as well, the parameter for virtual machine, then parameter for virtual machine offer, SKU. So it is very easy to navigate using this particular extension. Else you will be going through this, and then you might miss a particular curly brace, and then you will have to find how you have missed it, and it will be a little bit difficult if you are not familiar with these braces and or this structure. So this is one of the very quick way of starting with it. So once you have these tools set up, you can go ahead and pick one of the very easy deployment. As easy it can be a virtual machine, and then start navigating these particular things, like what are the things they have put into parameter, what are the things they have put into variables. So this way you will be able to familiarize yourself with the construct of ARM template. And these are the quick way to get started with. So as you can see, there is parameter, and within parameter we have put in lots of things as parameter, like virtual machine publisher. It might change on every deployment. Virtual machine offer, it might change on every deployment. And then VNet name, then VM size. So these are the things we have declared as parameter. And then we have variables. So as we discussed about variables, that these are the things you don't want user to enter, but then you will calculate it so that you can use it, whenever you need within the template internally actually. So I have calculated this subnet reference using, if you see that we have used a parameter, we have used another parameter, and then we have used one of the resources, and then we are calculating it, right? So as Neeraj said that you might construct a variable using a parameter. So, and here as well, one of the simple example here, I am calculating the network interface name using parameter virtual machine, and then just adding, concatenating with this particular string. Here, public IP address name, I am just getting the virtual machine name from the parameter and then concatenating it with PIP. So in similar way, you can concat things, and then you can get those things dynamically, and so that you can create a unique thing in the variable. If you want to everything to be inputted by, suppose you want to input the interface name by the user itself, then probably you will, instead of using it in variable, you will be actually declare it within parameter, right? So this is the way you will be, using variables and parameter over here. And difference between variable and parameter is something you will get to know, slowly, as and when you will deploy complex scenarios in your environment. Then you will get to know what are the things you might want to move from parameter to the variable section, or maybe from the variable to the parameter section, right? Then we have resources. So as we have discussed, that resources is array of resources. So as you can see the names over here, all of these things are actually array of resources. So we have a NSG rule, right? We have another NSG, then we have VNet, then we have virtual machine, right? Type virtual machine, then we have another public IP, then we have network interface. All of these are actually a single resource within Azure. All right.
Yep.
Okay. If till yet anyone has any question, we have just kind of refreshed our discussion from this slide. So once once you have that template from the QuickStart, once you have navigated through it, what are the variables are there, what are the parameters are there, what are the resources are there, you might want to edit those resources depending upon your scenario. So suppose I will tell you a very common scenario over here is, like, suppose let me go to the QuickStart and let me go to the JSON template over here. And if I go to the JSON, and if I go to the resource over here, they are network interface. Okay, so they are kind of deploying virtual network as well. Here they are deploying virtual network, as we have in our example as well. In our example we are deploying virtual network as well. But in normal scenario you might not be deploying virtual network with your virtual machine, right? You have a virtual network in place, you just want to create virtual machine within that virtual network only, right? So in those scenario you start kind of navigating through resources. You might remove some of the resources like VNet and then NSG rule and then other things, and then you will reference back the existing VNet as existing subnet and existing NSG rules in those places. So that's how the customization will work. I mean, that's how you will be customizing it in your initial days, and then as and when there will be complex scenario, you might be creating a template which is not there on Azure QuickStart at all, right? So, but in the initial days, I would recommend you to start deploying the resources which are already there on the QuickStart. You just have those codes in your computer, by cloning the QuickStart repository, and then you start customizing it so that the transition of learning, I mean the learning of ARM template will be quite easy for you. And when you have the confidence of updating the template, you might start deploying your own infrastructure, your own kind of resources there, which are not even on QuickStart. So that's how I just want to tell you that the whole all the things will not you will start from the beginning. And as we have been keep on emphasizing that DevOps is a culture which actually encourage you to do things in a smaller sprint, right? So, and agile as well. So you first deploy a normal virtual machine, then you might integrate it with the virtual network, then you might do some more work, you might install an extension as well, you might do a PowerShell DSC extension, you might do other things. So progressively, and then we have let me go through the output section as well. Then you might have use of this output section, like suppose what we are doing over here is we are printing the DNS setting FQDN in our output section, so that to ensure that the DNS setting we are going to give to the application team is actually deployed. So this will just print out that particular thing on the console itself. Once you have this code developed, once you have this ARM template on your system, so what you can do over here is you can deploy this particular thing entirely using PowerShell, or you can create a PowerShell script to deploy every time. So I already have a PowerShell script, but I will first deploy it using PowerShell console, and then I will tell you how exactly this is working. So let me just go to my PowerShell window, and we are here. So the first thing you will do in PowerShell is log in Azure RM account. So okay, so it is logging in. It will just log in and then will print the current subscription. So the first thing is logging into your Azure account, Azure RM account. So it is currently selected Azure DevOps Pro subscription 2, but depending upon your, this is my current subscription, but just wait for this one finish. Okay, so it has finished now. So the other thing is I might have different subscription attached to my this login ID. So I will have to make sure that the deployment I am doing with the correct subscription. So what the first thing I will do is get Azure RM subscription. So what it will do, it will list all the subscription I have. So I will just select this one. I mean, it was already selected, but just in case you have.
Can you expand the bottom window a bit up so that we can see full screen, or just do a command? Yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay, so the selected one is the same which I want to deploy with, but in your case it might be a different one with the current one, and you might have a different one for your testing purpose or something. So you have to make sure that you have selected the correct Azure subscription. It's just a kind of verification kind of thing.
Somehow we don't see you typing. Is it because your screen is too big?
It might be because is it console is visible?
It is visible, but yeah, okay.
Okay, it might be because the console is in administrative privilege, so it might not be doing showing few things to you.
I can see now. Okay, good.
Okay, so what I have done, I have selected, you know, Azure DevOps Pro subscription 2. However, in your case, you might select a different one depending upon your, you know, your use case. If you are deploying it into the production, you might be selecting the production subscription. If you are just testing, then you might be selecting a testing one. Once you have selected the subscription, what will you do is, let me just first change my directory to the directory where my code resides. So I am here. Once I have selected the subscription, the first thing you will do, if you are familiar with the Azure Resource Manager, you have to create a resource group before doing any deployment. So I will do the same, new Azure RM resource group. I will name that resource group. I will name that resource group as this one. And I will give it a name, location, South Central US. So the next step is creating your resource group. Okay. Once you have the resource group created, what you will do, you will do the deployment. So new Azure RM resource group deployment. So the next commandlet is Azure resource group deployment, then resource group name, on which resource group you want to deploy, this one. So I'll just copy paste, and then where is the template file? So template file you will give by parameter template file. So the template file is on the current location itself. So I will just copy paste complete path.
So maybe, you know, if you can make the same deployment through template file and then also template URI.
Yes. So in case you have the template file on an internet location, then instead of template file location, you will give template URI. So since I have given the template file, let me just do one thing. Let me remove this one. Template, and then you have two options, template file or template URI. So template URI you will use for the URL location. It can be GitHub, it can be Bitbucket, or any other. I mean, it can be a blob storage as well. So I am giving template file because I have it on my local system. Then I give the exact template file name, and then you will give the template parameter file. So parameter file or parameter URI, you have that option available for parameter as well. So I will give template parameter file, and I will do the same, and then parameter file. Then I will do verbose. So verbal will make sure that it will print the status on my screen. So if I will create, it should create the.
Ashish, there is a question from Pawan. Can we not create RG as resource group as a part of the code itself? Why are we creating in PowerShell?
What is can't we create resource group in
Code itself. Why we are creating?
Okay, yes. We create. That is what I was trying to say. That we already have a deployment script which does create a resource group. You cannot create a resource group using ARM template. You have to use a script for creating your resource group.
Correct.
So I have a script. Let me show you.
Yeah. So just to give an idea, Pawan, resource group has to be created first, and then you can deploy your JSON template there.
Yeah.
JSON template cannot be used to create a resource group.
Yep.
Now, how do you create a resource group? You can use your GUI portal. You can use command line. You can use PowerShell. You can use Visual Studio. Anything and everything, but not the JSON.
So what we are doing here is, so we have done a couple of steps using PowerShell command line, right? But what Pawan is trying to say, what Pawan is trying to achieve here is he just want to create everything on one click. Yes, we do, but that is also by PowerShell script itself. And how we do this particular thing, we create a PowerShell script, and within a script, if you see that, what we are doing here is we are first logging into the Azure RM account, right? Then we are selecting a Azure resource subscription. The subscription I have given in the variable itself, right? Then we are after selecting subscription, what we are trying to do, we are trying to register. We are making sure that these providers are registered. So what exactly happens that there are providers which needs to be registered for your subscription in order to talk to them. So you just need to make sure those providers are registered. By default this is registered, that's why I have not done it, but in a script you will make sure, because if it is your first deployment in your subscription, then probably you will need to register this, else you will get the error. Then what we are doing is, once we have once we are making sure that our provider is registered, then what we are doing, we are creating the we are first checking whether the resource group exists or not, right? If it exists, if it does not exist, we are creating it. Does not exist, create a new resource group, and it will create this one on this step. And if it exists, if this exists, then we are just picking the location from there, and then in the last step what we are doing, we are making sure we have the PowerShell parameter file, and then we are doing the same resource group deployment. So it's just a constructed script. It is a very generic script you might be getting on the internet. It is very this is the way we deploy in normal scenario, but here as well I just wanted to do it through command line so that I can mention, actually I can briefly go through each and every step and why we are doing it. So we are creating the resource group because resource group creation is not responsibility of JSON template, as Neeraj has clarified. JSON, you are deploying it on a resource group. You have to take care of creation of resource group, either via portal or either via PowerShell for automation purpose, right? So our script should be done. Yep. So provision is succeeded, as you can see, and the values we have given as parameter, you can see that what are the values we have given. The deployment is succeeded. And then we have an output file which gives us the Azure VM DNS suffix, and then you can use this particular for any further verification, or you can pass this value to a particular API, or maybe a tester test as as Deepak has explained, that they are using it actually for infrastructure validation test. So this can be, I mean, instead of this, you can have other things as well from the system. And let's go ahead and log into our portal and let's see how the deployment, is looking there. So if we go to our resource group section, we have a couple of resource group. One of them is this one we have created, ADP Demo VG, VMRG, and then within this resource group we have these couple of resources deployed, and all these you can see that deployment succeeded. If you click on that succeeded option, you will have that when did it succeeded. Duration is 3 minutes, and then what was the time last time? So 10:43 IST. You see 10:46, so it just completed 3 minutes ago. And you can see the related events for the troubleshooting or maybe for the logging purpose. So you can go ahead and find the details over here. This is called activity log. So this is something when your deployment is getting failed, the details you can find from here. So this is all it is. And then apart from it, you have the option for redeployment as well. You can see the view template, right? And then from here, as you can see the template I have deployed, you can download it for further customization. So now I will come here and how I use it. So suppose I have an infrastructure, I have a requirement which needs to be automated using JSON template, and then I do not find that environment over there on QuickStart. So I do not have any relevant example over here as we found for normal VM or something. So what I will do, what I do personally, and it is a very easy way of achieving this, that I deploy the infrastructure using portal. Okay, the required infrastructure, maybe little bit of things I would not deploy because that is not possible using portal, or maybe that not needs to be deployed that way. But I will deploy 90% of it, then I will download this template from here, and then I will do the customization. Then I will, there are few things which are actually hard coded over here. If you go over here, and if I go to the resources, there are few things you might need to do little bit of hard, you might have to little bit play with it, but you have 60 to 70% of code from here, and then you can download the JSON template, and other options are also available. You have PowerShell as well for the same infrastructure, the earlier way of doing this thing. You have the PowerShell for the same infrastructure, you have .NET code, you have other things, but since we are covering right now template, so I will go through template. You have this easy to navigate resources, then variables, then parameters, all these things over here, right? So this is the way of using from portal. You can deploy it from here as well, there is no problem there, but instead of that, deploy it, if you want to use the portal, then make use of it where it is needed. Else the PowerShell is the best way of deploying it, and this is the most most useful way of using ARM template with the portal and other things, right, with the PowerShell. This particular PowerShell is very generic. You will be using it a lot, but in initial, when you're doing testing, you might be, you might find this particular way very useful, because you will be debugging a lot. You want to see things happening in front of your eyes instead of running through a script. So it will show you everything over here, And whenever there is a failure, you will have that detailed information over here. Since we are successfully deployed, then there is no failure and no need to get into details of this, but sometimes it helps. So that's why I wanted you to, get familiar with the workflow, that you need to create a resource group, you need to provide the parameter file name, you need to provide the template file name, you need to provide the location for resource group, and what are the commandlets you use for each and every task. Yeah.
Ashish, there is a question from Ranjit.
Does this script has any error catching section? If not, how can we do that? Okay. So the first thing is, yes, there are a couple of error catching options here. I mean, there are a couple of things I have covered. So, but I will go through that in detail. But let me first point out the things where I am actually checking errors. So the first error checking step happening here, where I am actually checking whether resource group exists or not, right? And if exists, then I should have the location for that.
So I can answer. Let me answer that question. And so Ranjit, you can PowerShell provides try and catch block. Using that, you can do error handling in PowerShell, right? So if you are deploying any template using PowerShell, in that case, you can use the try and catch template. And plus, there is also error objects are also there to really figure out what error has happened within the PowerShell. However, if you want to find out any error has happened while you're deploying the templates itself, then probably you can go to the portal, look at the error actions, so all those has happened. So there are two sections probably you're referring to. One within the PowerShell. Within the PowerShell, you can use try and catch block. You can use the error action objects that is PowerShell offers you. In JSON, if you really need to look at it, you can look at JSON validator, or you can also look at the Azure portal and look at the options that Ashish has shown you about error action for JSON template. All right, back to you, Ashish. You're mute. Ashish, we can't hear you. You're mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, as Neeraj explained, you have to figure out these two things, whether you are exploring the possibility of error checking, then you have different options there in PowerShell, and then you have to find the condition where your error is happening, and then you have to catch it. Okay, so apart from it, so I mean, this is the what we have tried so far, and what we are trying to help you start with that. First of all, you need to familiarize yourself with this particular structure, right? If you want to work with JSON template, then this is a very easy to remember structure, that these are the things you will be familiar with. Then, provided the tools we have talked about, that Visual Studio Code and the extensions over there, and I will be posting those extensions names in our Telegram group as well. So those extensions, once you have those extensions, then it will be very easy for you to go through those things in detail. So it will be very easy for you to navigate through the template already from the quick start, and then start building upon that. And once you are there, once you are able to customize things, then progressively start building upon there, and share your feedback there in our group as well, so that we both can learn together. So this is all we wanted to cover today, and in future we want to cover a lot about infrastructure as code. And yeah, if you have any question, let's just ask that. Okay.
Yeah, I think we still have 6 minutes, so we can make use of that. And Ashish, I have to go on mute. I'm getting feedback. My echo. Yeah, thank you. So if anybody has any question, you can let me unmute everybody, participant actions, so unmute audience. Now you can unmute yourself and ask question. I see Saikiran. Yes, there is a script, Saikiran, which can list out all the available VM sizes in Azure regions, and I can share you that script. It's available, readily available on the Microsoft PowerShell repository. Any other? Ranjit, Visual Studio 32-bit 64. Yeah, so it will depend on your OS. That's, I think Ashish has already answered that. I mean, I have installed 64-bit. Any other questions? Your voice is very feeble. Can you speak up?
Is there any link for PowerShell core?
PowerShell core to download or to learn?
Just information like since it says it is GA now, is there any blog or something?
Maybe Deepak can help you with that. He's our SME. Yeah, so let's look at this. I found that. Oh shit. There it is. Yep, here you go. All right, any other questions? No questions? Okay, all right, so if
Neeraj, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any script like shutdown and start, like shutdown in the sense like the portal is shutdown, like it should not be used casting of a VM, like I forget that name.
You want to stop the VM and put in deallocated states, right?
Yes,
yeah, it is available. It is available. You can use Azure Automation for that. So if you create an Azure Automation account,
I want to do for see, and my scenario is like that. See, there's a requirement like DevOps team is there, but they are in different locations.
Okay.
But the VM should be shut down within exact time. It
Yes,
is
yes.
located in somewhere.
Yes.
It is located. See, after 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock evening.
Yes.
Either it is an IST or EST or PST or something.
Yes.
But it should be shut down. It should
Yes.
be shut down after 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So you use the automation. Ashish, put yourself on. Yeah, so you can use your automation account, and under that you can define a schedule. Every automation schedule, you can define a schedule, and that schedule could be that the script runs at 6 o'clock. So one script will be for startup, and it's already available. If you go in automation gallery, you will see there. So one will be stop, one will be start. So stop will kick in. The schedule will be at 7 p.m. PST or EST, whatever time, and then the start script will kick in at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m.
So that will do for a deallocated.
That would do for?
Deallocated. I'm asking what a deallocated.
Yeah, that will set it for deallocated. That's right. So that will save you money.
So that's why I'm asking the question is it a gray shutdown only OS shutdown or else deallocated also will happen?
No, it's deallocated. That's a deallocated. Okay. Otherwise, if you do OS shutdown, you will not save money.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that script is readily available. In fact, I have provisioned those script in my own subscription because I use MSDN subscription and I have to save money because I do a lot of demos and all those. So I do that, and it shuts down my machine for 8 hours, and then it restarts that machine after midnight, in the morning.
So we can in automation itself we can view the scripts. Am I right? We
Yes.
can get it that.
Yeah, that script is readily available. You don't have to write. It's there in the. You only thing is you need to create an automation account, and then from there define 2 schedules: one for start schedule, one for stop schedule, and then attach the schedule to these 2 events, and then use those scripts.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and one more thing I just wanted to point out that for this similar use case, I mean, I don't know what is the use case for you, whether it is production VM or not, but this particular thing happens normally with the developers, and Azure has a dedicated offering dev test lab. So I will recommend you to go through Dev Test Lab if that fits into your requirement. Using automation script is definitely for production VMs, but Dev Test Lab is something is specifically they have created for a specific requirement which describe lot much what you are asking. But yeah, I mean, I will recommend you go through it and go through this option as well.
I think these are the questions that we have, and we have only 1 minute, so if we don't have any last comments, so I take this opportunity to thank you everybody for joining our session today, and I really appreciate it. And we will bring in more interesting and useful sessions for our audience. And probably next session, which is for advanced, and as you know that we have split our session between beginners and advanced level. Now DevOps is part of the advanced session. So next session, probably we are going to cover Terraform, which is cloud agnostic way to deploy infrastructure as a code. So you write your script once, you write your infrastructure as code once, and that can be deployed across the cloud platform, including Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud. So we will try to cover that in detail in our next session. So thank you once again, for participating in our session today, and we really appreciate your feedback. If you have any feedback, please do write to us at AzureTalk at cloud with K, cloudeasy.com. And if you have any feedback, you can also post those in the forum. That will really help us to steer these sessions in the right direction. And we'll bring in more interesting sessions for you. Thank you. And thank you, Ashish, and thank you, Deepak, for sparing time and, sharing your knowledge with us. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.